Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode, the inaugural episode of the Rate the Record podcast. That is, if you don't include last week's episode 0, but that was just introduction. This is the actual real thing this time. So I am Kris, and I'm sitting here with
Savannah.
Well, kind of sitting here because we're obviously on Zoom. This is a whole different thing. I mean, if you're listening to audio only, yes, this is actually a Zoom call, but eventually it'll be done in person. But that's down the road. But for now, we just wanted to get this done. We've been talking about this for months, and we're finally here that we can do this podcast. So what this podcast is, Rate the Record. We just choose a random record of our own choosing. I feel like I'm just using a lot of words like repeatedly right now. And then we'll discuss the record, we'll rate the songs, and then, if you'll believe it, we'll rate the record.
Ooh, I had no idea we were going to rate the record on Rate the Record, but you know what? I'm excited and I'm ready.
Sometimes things are hidden in plain sight, but sometimes you have to do a lot of guessing, and I think that's what the show's going to be. Rate the Record. It's like a TV show? No, not quite. But anyways, yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. And that's what we're going to be doing for every single episode, including today, which today is being the inaugural episode. We're doing Pearl Jam's 10, which, by the way, just turned 30 years old last Friday, I believe, August 27th. So that's why we felt this was like a great place to start. And also, you know, being one of the Mount Rushmore of grunge music, I feel like this is an important album to dig into.
It really makes me feel old when I hear that albums are turning 30, and then I think of how old I'm turning, and I'm like, oh, no, please, no. Please, no, take it back.
When you're older than the album, it starts to feel a little weird when it hits, like, milestone marks.
Yeah, it's definitely a reminder of my own mortality, and it hurts. It really hurts.
One day closer to death, but you know what doesn't die? Music. That's how we're going to get the podcast started on this very dark note.
Ain't that a fact?
But yeah, we will be doing 10 today, but before we discuss 10 and the songs on it and everything like that and give you our own opinions, Savannah, would you like to tell anything to the audience so that way we don't get crucified for our decisions?
The following thoughts and opinions we're going to discuss on Rate the Record regarding this album is strictly of our own personal interests. We are not professional music reviewers. We are simply two friends having fun, discussing and listening to music. We encourage respectful discussion and friendly banter of each episode, but we do not condone and will not tolerate bullying or belligerence based on the opinions of ourselves or others. This podcast is a casual and for fun project, and you are welcome to take what we say regarding the albums we rate with a grain of salt.
Exactly. And chances are you're going to hear that disclaimer in every episode because we know that new people will come in all the time, and we want to make sure that everyone's on the same level. Yes, we do encourage this discussion of the albums, and you might disagree with some of the things we say, or you might completely agree with the things we say. Regardless, we can have discussions, but we don't have to resort to belligerence, bullying, or anything of the sort.
Yeah, stay respectful and don't be a jerk.
So here we go. Let's dig into 10 now because I feel like we've been talking a lot as it is without talking about music. So Pearl Jam's 10. Let's talk about Pearl Jam just for a second here. Pearl Jam is a band formed out of Seattle, Washington in 1990, in case you didn't know. The band's founders, bassist Jeff Ament and guitarist Stone Gossard. I always say his name weird. They're originally from the Seattle-based band Mother Love Bone, but they disbanded in 1989, shortly after the death of frontman Andrew Wood. But Wood's roommate Chris Cornell, who is of Soundgarden, which I'm pretty sure you're going to hear them at some point on this show.
Spoilers.
Yes. I mean, not exactly. We don't have it planned. Anyway, let's not talk about that yet. He approached Ament and Gossard. I'm going to say that like 5 different ways, I swear to God.
Till one of them sticks or you're corrected.
I'm going to piss people off and just say Gossard. Like as if there's like an apostrophe just after the G. No, he approached Ament and Gossard regarding recording a couple of tracks that Cornell had written about Andrew Wood in tribute to him. They agreed, and they also brought the young talented singer that had heard some demo tapes for, and that singer was Eddie Vedder, who we know as the lead singer of Pearl Jam now. The project would go on to become Temple of the Dog, and they would release only one album. It was a self-titled album, amazing, and very well might dig into that one day as well. I think we probably should. Yeah. But shortly after, Vedder continued working with Ament and Gossard in what would eventually go on to become Pearl Jam. And then their debut album, which we're getting into today is, by the way, I wrote these notes myself. Like, obviously, I've got it from different sources, but I'm trying to keep these in my own words. So that way I'm just telling you, no, I'm not plagiarizing. Also, it's hard to not say things that are similar that have already been spoken about before. So, I mean.
Yeah, this story is fairly well known, just being part of the grunge scene and everything. But, for any fans that are leaning more towards Alice in Chains, leaning more towards Nirvana, this is Pearl Jam. And I'm really surprised that this is what they released as their first album. And I'm really excited to just sort of get my teeth into it,
I think I'm excited to get into the entire Mount Rushmore of grunge eventually.
Ooh, yes,
which, spoiler alert, maybe this will say a lot, I don't know, but there is another Mount Rushmore type grunge band coming up soon. We'll get into that weeks to come. But to all the other, maybe there's like some new music fan infant people listening in the audience who don't know the story. That's the Coles Note version. But 10, the debut album from Pearl Jam, was released August 27th, 1991. Happy 30th birthday. It was recorded at London Bridge Studios in Seattle. The singles off the album were Alive, Even Flow, Jeremy, and Oceans. Chances are you've at least heard 3 of 4 of those tracks. Oceans was like the little more of an obscure one, but the other 3, my God, they're everywhere, anywhere, all the time. One of the more highly acclaimed albums that actually helped shape the grunge scene, because it hit number 1 on the Canadian album charts and number 2 on both the US Billboard 200 and the Billboard Heat Seekers album charts. That's a lot of words. And the song Even Flow was actually the highest charting single from the album across the world, hitting number 3 on the US mainstream rock track charts. The album went 13 times platinum in the US, selling over 13 million copies. It also went 7 times platinum in Canada and Australia, the former selling 700,000 copies and the latter selling over 490,000 copies. Every country has their own different distinctions, but that's still pretty awesome. Yeah, so after we dig into that album and everything like that, now you know what's going on. And I know everything kind of seemed mechanical in the beginning there, kind of reading off a script, but the good news is there's not much of a script to go on anymore. I have like some notes regarding some of the tracks. We're going to talk about the track list. We don't necessarily have to rate the tracks yet. We're just going to talk about the songs in chronological order. But then we're going to rate the songs and then, ta-da, rate the record.
Yeah, and we're speaking from our heart, not from our notes. Right,
partially from the notes, like 75% here, 25% there. So the album 10 kicks off with the song Once. So what do you think about the song Once?
So just every time I hear this song, I think of 2 things. I think of a mixed CD that I used to play in my 1997 Cavalier, and I had no idea who it was, but I love the song. So every time I hear it, I'm just transported back.
Wait, was it your CD or did like someone make you like a hot mixtape?
I don't know where it came from.
Did you just find it under the
track. Well, it's probably one of those, hey, let me borrow your CD book, and it's in there unlabeled, and I'm like, I'm going to take this. But I really like the song. I also think of, I guess just thinking of the beginning of the song, just sort of the, I don't know, I guess sort of sonic scape sort of at the beginning.
Yeah,
I always think of some
because it's like a little quieter and everything like that. So like you don't know what to expect going into the track when you hear that.
Yeah, like in my mind it's kind of like a steam mill or something where everything sounds very metallic and mechanical. And then when the music kicks in, it kind of feels like they're playing a show in a really rundown club or something. It's very strange, the picture that it paints in my mind. It's
funny because I actually have written in my notes too, like again, my point form, that this sounds like the kind of track you would hear like at the beginning of a concert while the sound guys are still setting up everything like that. You know how like, you quietly hear music in the background, just like this ambient music?
Yeah.
That's what the opening of this track reminds me of. It's like, this is getting me set for the concert that is this album.
Yes. Yeah. It really pumps you up. I like the I guess not speed, but just the vibe of it. Just the feeling is very energetic, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, because this is a good song to kick off the album with too. Because like, and also there's a really nice payoff going into the first chorus, because like the verse itself is tame. Like it's still good and energetic, but there's a tameness to it. But then as it builds to the chorus, it just gets more aggressive and louder and everything like that, to the point where it just breaks into the chorus. Like it feels like a good payoff. I think I'm gonna say that more than once too when it comes to payoff.
And flowing into the bridge, I like the sort of muttering, because it, along with how energetic it was just before then, it kind of feels sort of like an internal monologue where it's like you have all this pent up energy inside and it's just going on inside your head kind of thing.
And also, I feel like Eddie Vedder, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to correct me on this because I think everyone agrees. He's a man with a lot to say. So, I mean, if he's going to write a lot of lyrics for one particular track, he's going to go as fast as he can to get them all out. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who wants to cut himself off. But yeah, the song, actually, I even have notes about the bridge too, but like the song is excellent for like these, like a lot of like little licks and riffs that it has, especially in the verse and just like the opening itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, although I will say, we got to nitpick a little bit sometimes too. I felt the bridge went on a little longer than it probably should have.
Yeah.
Not saying that it's bad, but I mean, like, I don't know. It felt like it could have concluded a lot quicker than it did. Mm-hmm. And again, like we're not just gonna like rain praise on every single song and album and everything like that. So I feel like this is a good point to step into like this is what I felt about it, but it was still a good song though. It's not bad.
Yeah, and I won't disagree because I mean what you look for in a song is completely different from what I look for from a song.
Yeah, please don't lick the CD.
I might. I mean, I like it
if you like it enough.
But yeah, I mean, our rankings are definitely indicative of what we like and our preferences and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel the same, but you know, I definitely like the breakup of the aggression where it's sort of calm and then it just sort of pows back again.
That makes sense too, because I also like that kind of thing. I like when a song can transition well from like part to part, even if one part feels completely different. Yeah. But this one, I don't know. I felt like it stumbled a little bit, but it picked itself back up. It's fine, and it wasn't enough to throw me off of the song. Yeah, like it was enough that I was like, that was a little strange, but okay, let's keep going. And then we kept going. Song ended. It was fine. It was good. Yeah,
has a couple, bruises and scratch knees, but it's on running again.
I mean, you're gonna get bruises and scratch knees and grunge music. Okay, let's not pretend like it's a clean genre. The name is grunge, and there's a reason why it is. Yeah. But I mean, like, obviously there's clean sounding grunge acts out there too, but you know what we mean. But
you better know what we mean.
Now we go into the next song, one of the most popular Pearl Jam track probably ever. Even Flow comes next on the album, and man, oh man, like it was so interesting. Interesting is a word to use, I guess, to go back and listen to this song because. Now, this song would be rated highly for me, and it kind of is, you'll probably see that later. But the problem is that this is one of those songs, and I want to explain this real quick before we get too deep into this. This song has what I like to deem, in my own personal preference, the Hotel California effect. And so what that is to me is a song that I initially loved and enjoyed, something that excited me to listen to, but then I heard it way too many times over the years. And again, like I'm not going to reveal your age, but we're both in our 30s. And so, I mean, like, we've been around long enough to be able to listen to these songs. Yeah. And with Hotel California, liked it, but then I started hearing it more and more on the radio just constantly, and I got sick and tired of it. Although, granted, I'm not sick and tired of Even Flow, but it does feel that effect of like, oh, it's Even Flow. Okay, like, it doesn't excite me like it used to, but other than that, I have good things to say about it.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that feeling. One of my favorite bands, I can listen to all of their songs, but any of the ones that they repeatedly play on the radio, I'm like, you know what? I love the band. I would love to listen to this, but I am just mentally exhausted from listening to it over the course of my life that I think I can do with just not hearing it again. I'm just going to walk away. Just going to walk away and come back when it's over.
Oh, it's okay. We can call out the song we were talking about. It was Tom Sawyer by Rush. Can you tell that I hate Rush? Can you tell that I hate this band so much?
I have my Rush sweater with me.
I have 4 Rush shirts, but I hate them so much. No, obviously I don't, but don't worry. We'll get into Rush when we get into them. And chances are there's going to be a lot of high scores. But we're back to even flow now. But yeah, as I said, Hotel California Effect, but it's still a really good song.
Yes.
Because like I feel like this song, being as early as it is on the album, was this good introduction of like kind of like a softer and heavier type sound. Kind of like plays with the emotions a little bit, kind of takes you on a bit of a roller coaster. It felt good about it. Like it did it better than Once did. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I really like the vocal additions, just sort of the he's and the ha's and the just sort of the space filling. It didn't feel unnecessary. It felt very, I don't know, it felt like it fit when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, and actually to tag onto that too, because one thing I really liked about the song was how well the transitions were done. I mean, like you'll find that a lot across this album, and like many bands transition well, but like this song in particular, just like it flowed so nicely. So you didn't really have to think about the next section of the song or anything like that, or suddenly feel something different. Just it flowed, melded really nicely. And also, I gotta say,
was it an even flow?
This podcast is over. This is done. I'm out of here. Oh, now I messed up my perfect hair. Oh, no. We did not agree to dad jokes.
Okay, I'm done.
Hey, I already ripped off my headphones. I said we're done. Okay, I guess back on track since we still have time.
Yep.
The one thing I really wanted to point out too that I have in my notes is like you could say this again. Another thing you could say about any track on this album or band in general, but with Eddie Vedder specifically, I think his writing was like on point for this track. Like he's a fantastic songwriter. I don't think Eddie Vedder's ever fallen flat when it comes to songwriting, but there's something about the way this song was written that just feels the best. And obviously people say that about different Pearl Jam songs. Like this one's my favorite, this one, but like something about Even Flow was just written so nicely.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people will sort of make fun of it just for the seemingly nonsensical lyrics, or it's like, what is he saying? He's just mumbling. But the song is actually about homelessness. And when you think about it, or even just sort of read the lyrics, it's like, wow, this is a lot more, I guess, profound or more, I guess, important than it seems on the surface. It seems a little more deep.
I guess that's one thing I should have pointed out in the beginning, which is fine if you did. That's fine, but like I didn't do too much lyrical analysis, which is kind of weird considering I'm a musician. I actually write lyrics and I like analyzing lyrics, but that's the one thing I didn't do going into this. Maybe I should have, because like I know that Vedder's lyrics are very personal, and I also know that's why I think it was the song Black wasn't a single, because he felt it was too personal to make a single. Like I was just reading by that. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean that's what I think I came across. But anyways, Black comes up later because it is on this album. But yeah, like I don't know, maybe I should have done some lyrical analysis so that way I could maybe give the songs better and or worse ratings. Who knows?
Well, to be honest, neither did I. I just know enough about the band to kind of have that in my little brain files. But yeah, I mean, I can't say anything else about any lyrics of any other song, but I know I really hit the mark on this one.
Well, I'm pretty sure we can probably have a thing or two to say about Jeremy, because I think a lot of people know what Jeremy is about. And if you don't, then, I mean, Eddie Vedder writing about dark subject matter, that's so strange.
Oh, yeah, as if like this whole album wasn't a dark tone in lyrics. And, well, I guess the music's a little bit more upbeat to kind of counteract that.
That's one of my favorite things in music, is where a song will lead you to believe it's actually happier than it is. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite examples of that, which is maybe an artist we'll get into one day, Elliott Smith, who, if you know who Elliott Smith is, super sad and depressed guy, lived just a very sad life, but he had a beautiful way of songwriting, fantastic voice for it, like so fragile, but it fit. And there's a song he wrote called Memory Lane, which is the happiest, bounciest little acoustic folky riff you've ever heard. But if you listen to the lyrics, it is the most terrifying thing you'll ever listen to.
Oh, wow.
Just again, maybe we'll break that down one day if we come to that album. But until then, just understand, maybe go listen to, once we're done this podcast, go listen to Memory Lane by Elliott Smith, and then listen to more Elliott Smith, because I love him so much. It's just unfortunate he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Even Flow for you, and I think we more or less agree that it's still a good song despite its over usage on the radio.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a little overbearing when it comes to the Pearl Jam catalog. I'm always yelling at the radio. I'm like, they have other songs. Play other songs, please.
One song that I always like, if it comes to radio singles for Pearl Jam, the one I never hear anymore is "Do the Evolution," and
yes,
like the video is beyond amazing because Todd McFarlane, I mean, just is best animator, and I mean, just the song itself too is fantastic, and Eddie's like insane performance on it, just like he sounds like he's going crazy while singing it. It's fantastic.
There's a local radio station that'll do 90s at 9, and they will play "Do the Evolution." I've definitely heard it,
well,
but it's really only within that time constraint, you know.
Well, at least you have that opportunity. If there's a request line, that'd be perfect.
Oh yeah, heck yes.
All right, so speaking of songs that are on the radio a lot, we come to the next single of Pearl Jam's, and that is "Alive."
Yes.
This song, so I'll tell you my rating later on as we get to it, but I did rate it quite high, even though when it comes to the radio singles from Pearl Jam, like Jeremy's another one that comes up a lot, and we'll talk about that when it comes up, but "Alive" to me is one that I don't ever seem to tire of too much. Maybe it's just that I don't hear it as much as like Even Flow or Jeremy or anything like that. So "Alive" has always kind of like still been a very like highly praised song by me.
I like it. I kind of lump it in with Even Flow. It's sort of the same. To me, it's kind of like a radio staple of theirs. Every time I hear Pearl Jam on the radio, it's always one of those or Jeremy. And it's sort of kind of losing its luster in a way. But I think my favorite thing about the whole track is just the vocals. The vocals stand out to me so much. And as a professional shower singer, I love just belting it out in the shower. And I like that song. I love this song for that.
No one should ever shit talk you if you want to sing in the shower, because the acoustics in the bathroom are fantastic for that.
It's so good. It's so good. Sometimes I'll lay in my tub fully clothed in the middle of the day and just sing. And that's it, because it's that ego booster of, yeah, I am a great singer. And then I sing somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, not really.
Hey, to all the amateur producers out there, just remember that reverb does a lot for vocals. So just remember that. I'm also kind of in that like producer range too. So there's your hot tip of the day. But anyways, back to "Alive," because we're supposed to be discussing Pearl Jam. You're gonna find that we wander off the path way too often. But yeah, I feel this song is another one that's like a good balance of like soft and like not aggressive energy, but just like enough to pick you back up. But the thing is, like, this song is insanely catchy. It's probably the catchiest song on the album. Like, I know Jeremy is in its own way and Even Flow and everything, but "Alive," I think there's like all of 5 words in the chorus, and the melody is so memorable that like it's the most earwormy song of the entire album. That's not a bad thing at all.
I guess if you can sort of picture taking a road trip listening to "Alive," I feel like it's a bumpless road. It's just completely smooth. It's just drives right beginning to end. There's no sort of jerking or moving or uncomfortableness. It's just beginning to end, completely smooth. And then when it's over, you're like, oh, that was it? I kind of wanted more of that.
It's interesting that you note that, because I actually have some notes on that. But my first one is like, despite the length of the song, because it is over 5 minutes, every second is utilized very well. Oh, yeah. Like, because you think that like a song over 5 minutes has a tendency to stretch too long, and like, oh, you could have ended this like a minute ago, blah blah blah. Yeah. But I don't know, something about "Live," you just don't even think about the length, and you're just enjoying every moment of it.
Yeah.
But okay, so again, trying to get nitpicky about things. This is super nitpicky, because I feel like, again, we don't want to just like sing praises all day. I have this written with parentheses too on my notes. And I feel this is fair, and maybe it's just my headphones, but this is what I felt. Portions of the guitar solo in towards the end of the song sit a little too heavy on the mix, so it feels really out of place and kind of takes me out of the immersion of the song. Because suddenly one thing is emphasized too heavily, and so I'm just like, it kind of brings me back to that energy I was feeling throughout the rest of the track. Like, it's not that it makes the track terrible by a long shot, because again, it's a fantastic song, probably one of my favorites on this album, if not by Pearl Jam in general. But I mean, I don't know, just it takes me out of the ending a little bit as it's at its most energetic point.
I did write in my notes that I felt that a lot was going on musically because I'm listening with headphones. Everything's really close. And it kind of felt like there was just sort of, I don't know, at a certain point, it just sort of felt chaotic in a organized chaos, I guess. So.
Yeah, I don't mind chaos in music, because especially if it's done properly, it can be like a really interesting experience. But there's just something about the way that guitar was mixed, the solo, that it sits like heavily, like, I don't know what it's going to look like when I edit this, but this is my left side. And this is where the guitar solo sat most of the time. And it was just so prominent that it took away from everything else that was happening in the song. And so that's why it kind of pulled me back just a bit.
Yeah.
But like, that's me being super, super nitpicky. Like, other than that, like, again, I love Alive. Fantastic track.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I really enjoyed the introduction of the acoustic guitar at the beginning, and I like that sort of the fresh, bright sound to it. I felt it kind of disappeared as the song went on, but at the beginning, it was definitely a welcome change from the heaviness of Once and Even Flow. Yeah,
and that, like, I think that's the best part about the acoustic in that track is the fact, like, it kind of knew its place, and it knew when to make its exit. Obviously, that's a conscious decision by the writers, but the idea is just like, it felt right where it was, and because you didn't even notice it gone, like, you don't notice until you listen to it again. It's like, oh yeah, because it did kind of disappear, or that, or just fades into the mix, either or. But regardless, like, it served its purpose. It was there, and then we could just move on, and it can be proud of itself for knowing that it added such an integral part of the song.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to Why Go. Wait, did you have something to say?
No. Continue on.
Yeah, so song 4, Why Go? So I'll say this much in the beginning. Like, I heard 10 a long time ago for the first time. I couldn't tell you. It's maybe been 2 decades since now. So I forgot a lot about this album, and this is one of those ones I haven't revisited, not because I don't want to, but because, like, you know, I'm always listening to new music, and I also have preferences. So, I mean, just like everything gets piled on top of each other. So this is one of a handful of songs in this album that I forgot. But then, like, I really kind of enjoyed it more than I think I ever remembered enjoying it. Because, like, one of the things I noticed is this song reminded me a lot of the song Once. But I felt this was done better than Once.
I really like this song. The beginning drums of it reminds me of Rush's Animate. Just every time I hear it, that's the first thing I go to. But I don't know. I like it because it's it seems aggressive. I know that, you know, earlier songs of the album are fairly aggressive sounding, but
a word that'll come up a lot, yeah.
Oh, definitely. And it feels, I don't know, it feels very fitting with just sort of, I don't know, it's hard to describe without sort of going into a lyrical analysis, which I am definitely not going to do right now. But it feels very fitting for the song, the grit and the aggression in the vocals, which is something I'm probably going to bring up a lot coming up.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the notes I have too, is that, like, I really liked the aggression and emotion shown in this one, especially going into the first chorus, because the first chorus, like, everything gets quiet and he's just like, why go, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, because most people are used to a structure of a song where it's like the verse builds into the chorus and the chorus is like the loud kind of climax to that portion, whereas I like the opposite. There's a few bands I know that do this a lot, where they'll have like this more aggressive, louder, whatever verse, and then the chorus gets quiet. So it's like, I don't know, anti-anticipation. It pulls you back, and, like, I don't know, there's something I really enjoy about that, because, like, it feels new, it feels exciting. I know it only happens once in the song, but I really enjoyed that particular, like, that moment to me was like a pretty cool moment.
Just an aside, do you ever find that a louder verse and a quieter chorus is a little bit more unsettling because you don't hear it all the time, or it does feel a little fresh every time you hear it?
It is unsettling because, again, as I was kind of saying before too, like, you expect a louder chorus, and so suddenly you are just unexpectedly thrown into this world of change, where it's just like you were anticipating something big, and now it's just like, oh, this is different. Like, what am I supposed to feel? Like, it's does the rest of the song follow this? Like what? Like because then you would think to yourself like your brain's probably telling you the verse might be a little quieter, the next one might be a little quieter, and just build off that. But then it comes right back in with the aggression again with the verse. So it's just like and then the next chorus is aggressive, like not aggressive but like louder. Yeah. So I mean, it kind of like deceives your expectations a little bit, but I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for sure. It's kind of a mind tug where it's where is this leading, what's happening, and I like that. It's fitting. It's very fitting.
One thing I did like about the song too, it was kind of quick and to the point. I mean, like, which is not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. Like sometimes short songs work very well as long as you can get your message and point out in that amount of time. That's fantastic. My only nitpick of this is like, because I actually like the track enough, I felt like they could have done more with it and probably lengthened it a little bit. Like they could have played with it a little more, because I was enjoying it enough that I was like, yeah, you could have maybe played with those like dynamics of like doing quieter, louder a little more, and just like, I don't know, taking us on a little more of a ride than the song did initially. So again, just being nitpicky, but that's the way I felt about it.
Yeah. Just building off that point, personally, I think it could have turned predictable for it to sort of, instead of the roller coaster with a huge dip and, sort of kind of an unpredictable ride, it could have sort of been, okay, I know that this chorus is going to go quieter the third time around, or sort of a repetition of patterns kind of thing. So I think maybe them cutting it off was a good choice to sort of, okay, we're done. We have nothing else to say. Shut it down.
That is a fair point, because actually that's the one thing I didn't write in my notes on purpose, because I knew I was going to say it for every single song. And like, this isn't necessarily something I want to pick on any band for. But this album was full of generic structuring, like A, B, C, and then B, B, you're done. And to people who don't know what that means, like the way songs are usually structured by musicians is like A is like your verse, B is your chorus, C would be like a bridge. And like you obviously have bands who have more sections and then do things differently. So you might have B2, C2 type thing. But the idea is like the vast majority of popular tracks you'll hear by certain bands are A, B, C, B, B, done.
Yeah.
And so that's what a lot of this album was. And so, yeah, maybe it's better that Why Go didn't fall into that too heavily, I guess, because I mean there were two different courses, like two very different courses, so it's like there's a B1 and a B2.
Yeah.
And so I can appreciate the like I guess the uniqueness of that particular type of composition.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I enjoyed the song. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah. I like how fast it is. I am a very personally erratic person, so any of these fast songs definitely appeal to me, and that one stuck out immediately.
Oh, it's too bad Animal wasn't on this album then.
Oh, I love that song.
Animal is to me, aside from like Alive, I think Animal might be one of my all-time favorites from Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard it, I think it was like 14, and I was just like, oh.
This is mine now.
All right, so we'll move on to a song that I swear was actually it technically was a single, but Pearl Jam didn't want it to be a single. Black. And so Savannah and I talked about this off camera, and I think I've already forgotten what we've talked about in this podcast. So this was supposed to be a single initially because the record company wanted them to, but they declined because I think one of Eddie Vedder's biggest things was, despite the fact that all of his lyrics are personal as it is, and like they all tell a story, this one was apparently a little too personal, and so he didn't want to make it into a single. Yeah. But I mean, you could still hear the song on the radio all the time. So I mean, and it's a staple, like the Pearl Jam concerts if you've ever seen them live. So I mean, like, I don't know. Black is still one of those very notable songs that I consider a single, although it's technically not. I don't know. It's weird to explain that.
Well, I'm surprised that it actually, when I found out that it wasn't an official single, because I have heard it on the radio so many times that not releasing it is kind of like a, what? Really? I didn't know. There's no way. And then you look it up and you're like, oh, damn. Okay.
I didn't check into it. So maybe it's a B-side of another one of the singles. Like, I don't know. Because like, you know, you could release like Jeremy and then like Black is like the B-side. Yeah. Or Even Flow. Like, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. But like, I feel like Black must have been on at least one of those singles. If there were singles altogether, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I will say this about the song though. This this one, like, this is where it gets difficult to not repeat myself with things I've already said, because I mean, there's a lot I could say about a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
But I feel this song has a use of emotion, and it's really well utilized and like used properly, especially in the first, like going into the first chorus. Oh wait, sorry, I was reading the wrong note. But it is an excellent use of emotion. There you go. I just said it, excellent use. It says my note exactly. Excellent use of emotion in the song. Very effective. Yep. There you go.
Oh yes.
Because it is like, I mean, this song kind of takes you everywhere. Like the verse kind of misleads you a little bit to make it sound like a little gentler, like kind of like the sweeter side of things.
Yeah.
Although this is, I said I don't really go into lyrical analysis, but this one I do know about, because Eddie Vedder said this song is kind of like about first relationships and like that feeling you get from them, but then they end, and it's just kind of like that feeling suddenly changes, and you have to like grow as a person to learn about it. But it's still difficult to do, because like your first love, like they're there forever. If only that was true, huh?
Yeah.
But so because of that though, but like it's fun to hear the playful verse and then just go into this like really emotional sad chorus, and especially like, you know, going to the end of the song.
Yes.
So yeah, like it plays with emotion very well. It doesn't feel like it takes advantage of anything. Like it makes you feel what the lyrics want you to feel. So I think it's just a really well written track.
I definitely agree with everything you just said.
Hey.
Well, I mean, that won't be all the time.
No, hell no.
It feels like a ballad when it comes in, and by the time the song is sort of wrapping up and tying up any loose ends, it sounds, and it feels desperate. It feels like he's just trying to grab it, just something to hold on to. And the couple of lines, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be a star in somebody else's sky, but why can't it be mine?
Why?
Yeah, and listening to it, it sounds like he's drowning and he's just trying to grab someone's hand to save him. And it is wild, the emotion that just a couple of lines and some music can evoke in somebody that isn't even in that situation at the moment.
Exactly, because you can relate to it in some way or form. Like, even if it's not like relationship wise, like something about that line can ring in you, just like how something important happened but it's gone now, and you're like, why couldn't I still be in that situation?
Yeah.
So it is pretty heavy, and like you can the vast majority of people who listen to it can probably relate to it in some way. All right, so now the nitpicky portion, and like I want to make this very clear. I'm going to preface this because, again, as a songwriter, like I understand using emotion and song length in repetitive portions of songs to further the emotion. Like, I know how that works, and there's a lot of songs that do that I adore. But the ending of this one dragging on with that falsetto going on for a solid minute, if not more, it becomes a little grating. Like listen, I don't mind if the song goes on and on, but like there's something about that falsetto that just after a while it's like, okay, let's just hear something else now. Yep. Like I know he's using that for an emotional purpose, and like it could be seen as like a kind of like a wailing and a weeping type of scenario, but like I don't know, it just goes on a smidge too long for me to be super comfortable with. So like it bumped that track down a little bit for me when I was like putting my ranking list together.
Does it kind of feel like you're sitting next to somebody who's bawling their eyes out and you're like, what do I do now? What is happening?
It could even be like someone you're comfortable with, but like if it goes on a little too long, like you try to comfort you, like the first portion of it, like it feels like you can try to comfort this person, like arm around them, it's gonna be okay, blah blah blah. Yeah. But then like after a while, they just keep going and they're like not even listening to you. It's just like pat on the back. Okay, all right, we're gonna be fine. I'm gonna go get some water. Just walk away. I don't know. Like I felt like it could still be as effective if it didn't go like just the falsetto portion. Like, listen, I don't hate the falsetto, but just the length of time it went on. And also, I will say maybe this is just me and I have a weird imagination, but I've seen Pearl Jam live and they played Black. there's something about listening to 15,000 people doing that falsetto for about a solid minute and a half that takes away from the emotion for me. I'm just like, this sounds kind of silly because I can hear people's voices cracking doing it behind me. I'm just like, oh, well, I'm not sad anymore. It's kind of funny, actually. It's like teenagers crying about lost romance, which essentially what the song is.
Jeez. I can definitely see the concert humor for sure. Like the emotion is there, but when you hear the 60-year-old man behind you, you're like, what?
And what's even funnier is that like the song rings out and the audience is still going.
Yeah.
They're still do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Like they're still going. There's no sound except that. I'm just like, guys, please, that's enough.
I want to hear the next track.
Well, I mean, like Eddie was drunk on, I'm assuming he's drunk on stage because he had like 2 or 3 bottles of wine through that whole show.
Oh, yeah.
So he was just kind of like pacing the stage and kind of looking in the audience, just kind of like doing this, like just clapping, like, hey, you're all doing a great job. I'm like, don't encourage them.
Yeah. You stop it.
You have other songs we could listen to, but we have to listen to these drunk old people doing falsettos.
Well, it's probably why live they speed up a lot of their songs because they're like, oh crap, we have 20 songs to fit into 10 minutes. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. So now we move on to another gigantic hit that you hear way too often on the radio.
Dun, dun, dun.
Jeremy spoken class again. That's exactly how he sings it too. Don't question me. Just to start off this, my very first point is that 12-string bass, though. That's my very first. That's the bass. That's the line that opens the entire track. And I remember when I first heard that line, like I thought he just kind of like, this was back when I was younger and I didn't know the concept of a double string guitar type thing.
Yeah.
I was just like, he recorded that so perfectly, like dubbing a higher harmony over top of the lower harmony. Like, wow, that's so talented. I mean, that is talented. Don't get me wrong, but holy shit, that 12-string bass and the fact that the tone on it is so perfect makes me love the intro to that song.
Oh yeah. I actually don't have much at all to say about this song. Just sort of touching back on the Hotel California even flow feeling. That's what I get from Jeremy. I love the song for what it is. The lyrical concept, the just, I can't even pick anything that stands out at me because I like to accept it as a whole. Yeah. But I would like to hear that song once every year and I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree to that because the Hotel California thing, although to me, Even Flow is the bigger one, but like that's just my own personal opinion. But yeah, I definitely understand about overhearing this song too much. But like, at the very least, all I can say about that is like, at least with this song, if you listen to the radio edit or the full length version, they both work. Like none of them feel like they're dragging on or cut off too short. Like everything just kind of works. So whatever you're in the mood for, if you don't want to hear Jeremy in that particular day and you happen to get the 3.5-minute version, you're like, okay, I can digest this as compared to like the 5-minute version of Jeremy, which is on the album. But I will say though, what I really enjoy about the song is it maintains a really good and consistent momentum. Like obviously some parts get a little louder than others, but like, I don't know, nothing ever feels flat in this song. Like it feels like what you're started off on as soon as the first verse kicks in is like kind of what the ride you're taking on. So everything kind of sits properly. You don't really change emotion through the song. It's good. It's a good ride while it lasts.
Yeah. I think I don't actually know what I would think of the song's sort of concept and idea if I didn't have such a vivid image of the video. I know it's not part of the album or anything, but it definitely added to its success and it's sort of boosting it up, you know?
Oh yeah, we mentioned earlier about Jeremy's dark lyrics, so you want to talk about the video. Yeah, it's all about school shootings. Isn't that fun? Isn't that lovely?
Oh, Lord.
What other smiles can Eddie Vedder give us today? No, but yeah, actually, it's funny because I've only ever seen the video like once or twice. I don't recall a lot about it. Like I do remember like flash frames in my mind, and like there was quite literal flash frames in the video of kids just going, It's been like I'm probably gonna have to go on YouTube and watch it again because I don't think I've watched the video for Jeremy in years and years. I've kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah,
I'm just used to it being on the radio, so that's about it.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first songs that I've heard that I did hear of Pearl Jams that use those who's, ha's little falsetto this and the breathing and everything. And that kind of adds a sort of frantic, like, sort of what do I do, where am I going feeling, and even with the subject matter I feel like that's fitting as well.
Yeah, and even with the ending of the song where he's doing that that is the most uneasiest feeling of the song, because it sounds so out of place, but like why it's there. And like so I'm not going to nitpick on that, because actually I like that they added that, because it does add a little more franticness and everything to the track that's very dark subject matter as it is. So I like in a way you appreciate it in a very sad and dark way.
I feel like there's nothing much I can say about it that isn't just about, the story that inspired it, or sort of going off on this hiking tangent. So just to stay on track, I think I'm gonna close my commentary on Jeremy for now.
No, yeah, and that's fair too, because as I said, we're not gonna do like a lot of like lyrical breakdown anyways. But if you are new to discovering Jeremy, like if you're young enough that like Jeremy like is one of the first songs you're listening to right now, I highly recommend reading the backstory behind the lyrics, because it's based on a true story, and it's not pleasant. So I mean, just go in with caution. Reader's discretion advised, I guess. But yeah, definitely. Like it is an important song. It's really well written, a fantastic song, but just understand it is very dark subject matter. So just go in carefully.
Yeah, definitely.
But we will move on now to song number 7, Oceans, which is it's a single from the album that I do not remember at all.
Neither do I.
Because like I don't recall hearing this on the radio. I think there's a video for it that I don't even recall seeing. But it's listed as one of the singles from this album, which is weird because Black is more noticeable than Oceans.
Oh yeah, and definitely more played. Like you said, I don't think I've ever heard Oceans on the radio, unless it was maybe when it came out and I was years old. So I'm not too sure.
Young enough that just it was in the background, you weren't paying attention. We'll just say that
definitely,
much.
definitely.
But you know what? I will say this one. The song is quieter than everything else because it relies a lot more on like percussive and auxiliary, as compared to other tracks that are just like guitar driven and everything like that. Yeah. So I will say it has one of the more unique compositions on the album, and it's like kind of a nice breath of fresh air as compared to everything else. I don't know. It feels like a moment of calm out of everything we just heard, and especially considering it follows Jeremy. Like, you need a moment of rest, and I think Oceans is that perfect track for that.
Yeah, to me it felt like the beginning of side 2, where
I think it would be too.
Jeremy ends on a high note. You're
high note.
Feeling.
I know what you mean.
Well, musically, and you feel very. You feel, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it other than you just kind of feel energetic just from how loud and how sort of, punch in the face the song is. And then Oceans is just sort of, okay, we're going to relax. We're going to set up side 2. We're going to, drive back in, but we're just going to take a breather. We're going to take the car, go off on a scenic lookout, take a pee break, and then we'll get back in the car and we'll hit the road again.
And, I think this is our first episode, by the way. So, I mean, like, we're still going to be like getting into a lot of things and like changing things as they go. And I think I'm having one of those moments right now because I'm like looking at my notes, because again, I have notes for each song. And there's one I'm looking at that I wrote that I no longer agree with because I'm starting to feel like a difference on it. So the first one I have is the song Short and Sweet, but that's a good thing because like, I mean, it's only 2 minutes and 45 seconds, I think, but it's very effective in that time. Again, one of those things you don't think too much on the length of. And my next note is that it's minimal but effective. Could have done a little more with it, but it still works. But now I'm starting to change my mind on that because I'm kind of glad it's a short song. Like they don't have to do any more with it because like when you're taking a breath of fresh air, it's not meant to be a long time. It's just you're collecting your bearings and then you move on to whatever else you're doing. And so in this album, it's moving on to the next song. But like the idea is like you just came off of a really heavier, very emotional section of music, especially with Jeremy being the last song. And so this song is just like breathing point. Okay, we're good. Let's get on. So I'm kind of now disagreeing with my own last point about could have done more with it. Let's just scratch that and say the song is really well and really well written. It works for what it is. And again, again, just unique composition. I really like how they relied a lot more on just like auxiliary percussion and just like softer sounds and everything like that.
Let me see here. Oh, so speaking of the percussion, I really like the floor toms just adding like a grandiose feel in such a short time, where it's very, I don't know, I do imagine sitting on a rocky coast, just staring out at the ocean, to me, it paints a very nice sonic picture.
If this is where I could possibly be corrected too, but I know that Eddie Vedder wrote maybe 1 or 2 tracks of this album while he was at the beach, like surfing or watching friends surf, and he got like inspired to write songs. And I think Oceans is one of those songs while he was on the beach. So like he was, if I am correct about this, he was inspired by the waves too, and just like the openness of everything. So that could very well go along with why like the floor toms are so prominent. Yeah. And also, I think the toms are one of the most underrated things about drums in general, because I mean, like, you can have your snares, your crashes, your kick drums, because I mean, like, that's just typical rock track. But I mean, like, how you utilize tom drums can add a lot of emotion. It can assert a lot of things for people to like really feel more in a song. And so, like, yeah, I like that this song didn't rely on like the snares and the cymbals and everything like that. It was all like basic percussion, the auxiliary background percussion. It was just, I don't know. This is a very nice song to have.
Yeah, I liked it the more I was listening to it, because the first couple of listens were actually my first listens, and I just kind of felt it was sort of a throwaway. But the more I listened to it, the more I sort of focused on each part, each point, and those toms really stuck out to me as sort of like a swell, where it's just sort of, it builds up, but there's no obnoxious release. It's just a swell, and then it's just a slow, quiet sort of, flow after. So
yeah, I feel like if this song suddenly picked up into like basic drums and guitar solo and heavier guitars, like, it would have ruined the feeling. Yeah, and actually definitely. Probably I feel like it would have bumped it down lower on my list, because I just like, it's nice for what it is. It's nice for its length, and just nice for what it's trying to make you feel. So again, nice breath of fresh air. I think that's the one sentence I would use to describe the entire song. But then we move on. And
with the image I see in my head, the fresh air is definitely in there.
It's all part of the beach scenery. So like, it's just gonna be the waves coming in, the breeze, and the seagulls not pooping on you. But anyway,
moving on.
He didn't write about the seagulls pooping on him.
Thank God.
Okay, so the next song number 8 on this album is Porch, and I mean, I'll be straightforward. I don't hate this song, but I will say it straight up. I'll spoil it. This was probably the weaker entry on the album to me. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a nice pickup from the last song to get kind of back flowing into the energy, but there's just a lot I felt lacking about this song.
To me, it kind of gives me like a sort of I guess in some way, and don't come at me if I'm wrong, but sort of like an old school sort of punky, very to the point, right there, no walking around the point. You just hit it and you walk away. I wish the song was longer, because I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the energy to it, but I don't know. I didn't find too much wrong or too much that I didn't like, but I just wish that there was more of it to kind of paint a bigger picture of it.
Yeah, and like, I don't mind like punky style writing, everything like that. And as a matter of fact, like, even in my own songwriting, those types of things appear every once in a while, even though I'm not like a punk writer, but still, like, it's there. So like, I am inspired by those elements. But like, I don't know, like, to me, this, when I first heard the song, I listened to it twice, just because like, I wanted to make sure I felt the way I did about it. This feels like a filler track to me, like the last song they wrote for the album, because they needed one more song to fill a quota type thing. So like, nothing really stood out too much about it. Like, so it felt like filler. Yeah. And again, it's not a bad song. I don't hate this song, but I've already kind of spoiled my ranking for this song on the list. Like, it's just it's the weaker entry, and just like, I don't know, because I'd have to listen to the track again, because sorry, I can speak. I already don't remember this note here, because I've said the middle of the solo section is different from the rest of the track, but it works very well. That just goes to show, though, the fact that I can't remember what it sounds like already, and I just listened to it a couple hours ago, shows how forgettable the song is to me.
Yeah.
And
that's understandable.
Yeah, and like if you love the song, that's fantastic. Like if you find something that you truly connect with in the song in one way or another, that's great. But unfortunately, it's just not there for me. So this will appear a little lower on my list.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but it is definitely a little higher on mine.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, when I say something's on the bottom, like you could say anything's higher, it could literally be the next step up. Because that's
never know.
Well, we'll know in about 5 minutes. All right, so song number 9, a song that I was actually pleasantly surprised by, because again, I do not remember this track, Garden.
Yeah.
This one is another song that was really good and effective with its emotional style of writing. I think I liked the song more than I was anticipating, but to be honest, I didn't know what I was anticipating. But because I just came off a porch, no pun intended, I guess, I just realized it's funny coming out the porch. Anyway.
Into the garden.
Off the porch into the garden. So the garden was more liberating than the porch was. How about that?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was a good balance of like, light and heavy again, because it had its moments of both. Good emotional composition. But I think my biggest issue with the song is that it feels slightly incomplete, and maybe do a little more with it. I just feel like the length of the song doesn't do it justice. It could have been a little longer. They could have done a little more with it, because the way this song was going, it could have been so much better than it was, which again, I already like the song, so
yeah. It's to me, it's kind of like Oceans, where the more I listen to it, the more I do enjoy it. I know it will grow on me. It feels like something that I'm going to pick something new about it every time and sort of fixate on, I really like this sound, or I really like the way he phrased this or whatnot. But I feel in the grand scheme of the album, it kind of feels like we've passed the apex, where it's sort of, we're in the resolution phase, where it's just sort of everything's tying up. We're kind of, for me, I can tell that the album is coming to a close.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because the next song, because I don't have a lot to say, much else to say about Garden. Again, great song. I understand where you're coming from on it too. So it's not that I disagree with it. But then going to the next song, Deep, song number 10. Wow, this is Eddie Vedder's apex. This song is crazy. This is one of his best performances ever. He's already great in what he does, and he's so good at projecting and showing emotion, and he knows how he wants to present his lyrics. But Deep is so energetic and aggressive. He's just all over this track, and I don't know, I love this one. And again, this is one I've never even heard, so this was a surprise to walk into type thing, or rediscover, I should say. This one was a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm going to hide my face while I say this one.
Didn't like it.
I felt a little fatigued by how aggressive it sounded, just compared to the amount that I had just listened to. I wasn't listening to it song by song. I listened just whole album, one go, and by the end, it was kind of I think I'm done now. So it was harder for me to objectively listen to the song when all I'm thinking is, when is this done?
Oh,
and
man.
I love them, and I feel bad for saying that, but I know I'm going to revisit the song, and I know that down the road we're going to revisit this whole album.
Yeah, don't worry, we will redux this.
Change. Oh,
we will 100% redux this one day.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sure my opinion will change, but just the couple of go-throughs that I was listening to, I did feel a little... I felt speed fatigued, where it's it's going at the same tempo and the same speed the whole album. So when I hear another one of those songs, I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah,
No.
it was an interesting choice to leave this one so, again, no pun intended, so deep into the album.
Yeah.
It was an interesting choice to do that, because it is one of the more aggressive tracks on the album. But I don't know. I also listened to it song by song, and writing notes, I had to keep pausing stuff and just writing down my thoughts. So it took me a while to get to this one. So it's so interesting that I didn't feel the same fatigue as you do, but I do feel that in other albums.
Yes.
But when I got to this one, though, it was just, I don't know, it kind of woke me back up. I was like, oh, okay, this is a song. song. It's fantastic. Listen to them going crazy. And just, again, I think Vedder's performance on this one is the best on the album. Like this, I don't know about the entire discography of Pearl Jam because I'd have to go back and like revisit literally everything. But this, like, I think just the song is good, but Vedder's performance alone bumped this score up for me so high.
Yeah.
I was just excited when the song, like, by the time it was done, I was like, wow, holy shit.
Yeah. You just want to listen to it again and again, right?
Well, and I did after I wrote my notes.
Yeah.
I listened to it at least one more time.
I wrote down that I just thinking about the whole album, I don't think this track could have been placed anywhere else than where it was. Just in between Garden and the last song, Release. It feels good where it is.
It's that one last burst before, like, because, like, actually, we could just kind of transition to that right now. The final song on the album, Release. So, like, Deep is that last burst, whereas Release is literally what it says it is. It's a release. Like, it's a very calming song. And again, I'm gonna have to like go against one of my own points here because like now that I'm thinking about it, like it makes more sense because like the song feels like a good release. It feels like the just, you know, a valve opening up and just letting the water, the pressure's gone. Because one of my notes, I literally says, let's see, well written and performed, shouldn't have been the closer to the album, even though I now disagree with that because the more I think about it, it's like, you know what, it is a good closer to the album.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, again, going down the road, we'll probably cover Nine Inch Nails, my favorite band ever. But like, I've always thought about the song Hurt, which is on the Downward Spiral. And like, you have this insanely aggressive album, but then you have Hurt, which is like this quiet, like very sad track, but it works as an ending. Yeah. It's a song that you wouldn't expect, but maybe depending on how you're listening to the album, it could work really well. And I guess, again, on my first time around, I didn't think about that too much.
Yeah,
but Release is definitely good for that.
The way I feel about Release is just kind of, I think of it kind of like a movie or a book or just sort of any sort of storytelling where you have the apex or you have the conflict and then the resolution, and Release kind of feels like after all of that is said and done and the character is sort of, they're back to their day-to-day, they're back to the calm and sort of explaining where their life is now, and you know, their life is so different and they're in a better place. And that's how I feel compared to Once, the leading track, to Release, the end track. It's vastly different, and it feels like there was a lot of, I guess, personal progression as the album goes on, and it definitely feels like a movie.
And actually, if anything, it mirrors human emotion very well because I think anger and aggression are some of the first things people will let out if they have a lot of it. Yeah. Because like it's the easiest thing to just start bursting and just scream type thing. But then as you're letting it out, like the aggression and anger starts leaving and then other emotions kind of follow behind it. So like you have a lot of that like darkness going through the album, and then Release is just like again, I don't know the lyrical breakdown, so I can't really comment on that, but like just the feeling of the last song isn't angry anymore. It's just like, okay, woo. Just I open that commercial where the girl has, like, I see it on the internet a bunch where she's like, it's a mental health commercial. She's standing in front of a mirror and she's like struggling to breathe. She unzips her chest and all these words just fall out, and then suddenly she's like taking deep sighs and breaths and everything, like she can breathe again. Yeah. Like that's kind of what this felt like now that I'm thinking more about it.
Yeah, like feels like an understanding of the preceding aggressions.
Yeah, exactly. And even on a side note about the song too, I have this written. This song reminded me so much of what's to come in other Pearl Jam albums, and actually the song that came to mind, I have this written exactly, feels like the catalyst to future tracks like Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town. I think it's called, a long title. Yeah. But I believe it's on the next album, Verses. But the idea is like this song reminded me so much of that. It's like, so Eddie was still definitely having this in his mind because it sounds very similar, like in many ways. Yeah,
I'm going to actually have to take a comparison of those two just so I can kind of get that in my head.
Listen to Release and then listen to Elderly Woman because you'll notice there's a lot of similarities. So I think that song was still kind of fresh in his head when they went into the verse sessions.
Okay.
But yeah, like, I don't know, it's not a bad track at all. I really enjoyed it, and the more I think about it, I think I enjoyed it more than I did on my initial listen. Just because, again, like I said, it wasn't probably the best closer to the album, but I mean, I'll eat crow, I'll eat my shoe, I'll eat my hat. Give me something bad to eat and I'll eat it because I admit that I'm wrong.
Yeah. I don't want to say that I loved it. I didn't hate it. It was just a logical conclusion that I don't think fit anywhere else than where it was. And I like that.
Yeah, no, that I agree with that. I wouldn't have in the beginning, but I do now that I've had time to reflect on it. Okay, so now we are going into the actual song rankings themselves. I want to make sure I have everything in order here. So it looks like there's a number missing. 9. Oh, did I make a number missing? 8, 9, 10. No, I didn't. Okay, I left that one on purpose because I know what the ending is. Okay, fine. So here's what's going to happen with this one. I mean, since we're in a Zoom call, we can't do this perfectly, but don't worry. That's what post-production's for. So when you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the audio version, we're going to talk about this. But if you're watching the audio version, I'll put up a little graphic of where we're going to rank these songs from 11 to 1 because there's 11 songs on the album.
Yes.
So obviously we've discussed the album ranking already, which we'll get into after the song rankings. So we already know where the album sits, but we don't know where a song sits in each other's lists. So this is where it's going to be like a fun reveal to not only ourselves, but the audience as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Fun times.
Fun times of arguing and hatred. And this is probably the last episode.
Yep. All right. See you guys later.
Okay. So we're going to start. Okay. So I don't want to call this worst to best because I don't want to believe that there was a worst song on this album.
Yeah.
So just use any sort of terminology you will, like least favorite to favorite, weakest to strongest, but just know that we don't necessarily hate any of these songs. It's just our personal ranking of our preferences.
Yeah.
But we're going to start at the bottom though. So we're going to start with number 11. So my number 11, there's no spoiler here because I already told you before, Porch. That to me was the weakest entry.
The way I did my list, I have a lot of duplicates. So out of the ties, I'm just going to sort of say which one I prefer. Okay. I'm probably actually going to put Oceans as the last one. Yeah.
Well, I'm also writing yours in.
Like I said, I think it's going to grow on me the more I listen to it. So I will give it a chance for sure.
Fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. That one actually appears a little higher on my list, but because I guess it just hit me a little more when I first heard it. But again, yeah, opinions can always change. And we'll tell you what, if things change drastically over the course of X amount of episodes, we will redux this album one day. Maybe it'll be completely different. It'll go from whatever tier it is now to another tier. Or song orders might change. I don't know. Yeah. If we really need to, we'll do it. But other than that, this is official. Okay, so song number 10, I put in Once. Although, I loved this song growing up too. It's also one of the first songs I heard by Pearl Jam, besides Animal and Jeremy and Even Flow and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Reflecting on the album now, just listening to it, I feel I don't know, it didn't hit me as well as it did as a kid. So it's at number 10 for me.
Number 10 for me will be Deep. Same story with Oceans. I just need to give it some time to sort of, sprout and grow the more I water it and listen to it. Maybe it'll become bigger than it is, but right now it's sitting at number 10 for me.
Fair enough. I mean, again, we are already on almost opposite spectrums here. I could tell you that because you're going to hear something. You'll hear these names come up a little later in the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 9 is Black. Again, not necessarily a terrible song, but just... I'm not gonna lie, maybe I'm just nitpicking a lot, but just again, the falsetto ending just kind of lowered the score for me a little bit. Other than that, it's a great track. It's well written. I love it, but just as it is, it's number 9 on my list.
Number 9 for me is Garden. Oceans, Deep, and Garden all had the same score, so I had to make the terrible choice of choosing which one of my children I like the most. But yeah, Garden, I would put it at number 9. I liked it. I didn't love it, but it's not a track I would purposely skip.
Fair enough. Again, just although that one's not too opposite though, that one's coming up very soon on my list here, but I get where you're coming from. Yeah, it doesn't stand out too much on the album, but at the same time, it feels different from what I'm used to because Jeremy and Even Flow just take over the charts.
Yeah.
So songs like those kind of excited me a little more.
Yeah. A little change in scenery, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So number 8 for me is Why Go. I enjoyed the track. Obviously, not I enjoyed it more than to not put it towards the bottom, although it's technically closer to the bottom, but it was good. But again, it reminded me a lot of Once, but just it felt better than Once. So that's why it is where it is now. It's not the greatest, but it's better than that type thing.
Yeah, I understand that. I say Release. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about it that will keep me coming back, but it's not going to be my go-to track on the album.
Fair enough too. And like realistically, you can skip like the last 3-ish minutes of the song because the ending literally is just full circle because it's what plays at the beginning of Once.
Yeah.
And so like it just kind of like leads you back into that circle, so you can just listen to the whole album again. And then the next album, I believe, has a song called Spin the Black Circle. Well, then I feel like that's a reference to the album 10. Oh god, Spin the Black Circle is another fantastic song. We'll get to that album one day.
Yep.
Okay, so yes, I said Why Go, you said Release. So number 7, I have Garden as number 7 because I did enjoy it. Again, doesn't stand out too much, but I liked it enough that I'm going to remember it going forward. So I'm probably going to listen to it again and see what I really liked about it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes more than one listen to like really find something you like.
Yes, yeah, or even more than 5 or 6 listens, then you're like, okay, I'm getting the concept, I'm getting what they're going for, and it takes on a new meaning.
Yeah, and there's albums I listen to years later, not even just necessarily this one, but like other bands too. There's albums and songs I listen to years later, or I'm still discovering new things about tracks. I'm like, oh, wait, that sounds pretty cool. What's that sound? That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and it becomes your favorite for a period of time, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So mine is Jeremy. I kind of situated it in the center for the most part. The fatigue of listening to it all the time for the last 30 years is just kind of, it hasn't lost its meaning, but it has lost its intensity.
That's understandable. That's me with Even Flow too. Yeah. Actually, you know what? It's fair enough. Transition to the next point because mine's Even Flow at number 6. And it's the exact same reason. Like, although Jeremy doesn't have that same quality to me where I'm exhausted of it, like I don't mind it so much. Like I can take it as background noise too. Like it doesn't bother me. But like Even Flow is the one where it's just like, what else is on? Like, just I'll listen to it maybe another time, just not now. Like I've heard it way too much. Hotel California here. Yep. So like Even Flow again, fantastic track. Like really, really well written. As I said, probably some of his best writing on the album. But just, I'm exhausted of that particular track. So that's why it's lower than it would be on probably most other people's. I could see Even Flow being like a top 3 for most people. Yeah. But like if you're exhausted of these songs, then it's definitely gonna be a little lower.
So for number 6, I have Alive. Okay. I like that song a lot. I don't like it as much as the songs that I have ranked higher than that, but it is definitely a song that is welcome in the car, welcome in the house, welcome in my brain, and I will not turn it off.
I'll take that. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, even though that you are, but I mean, like, especially you listening at home, you're wrong too. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. Did we not say in the beginning we're not going to tolerate bullying and discrimination or whatever?
Oh, no, but that was to everybody else.
Oh, I can still hate your decisions. That's fine. You're wrong. Okay, so number 5, that's where I put Release. I don't know, because again, like even I guess I had some foresight even while making my list before we started the podcast. Like I enjoyed what the song was and I enjoyed what it did, so I felt like it deserved like a higher place. I'm ignoring the last 3 minutes because listen, I love jam sessions and songs. I absolutely adore it. Like I listen to a lot of Frank Zappa. Yep. So I know a thing or two about that. But the idea is just like, I don't know, I can just take the first 4 minutes of the track and just be happy with that. It works for what it is. Like I have this weird tendency to rate songs, like ending songs on albums based on like how emotional they are sometimes. Yeah. One of my favorite ones is like there's like Zero Sum by 9 Inch Nails, Long Slow Goodbye by Queens of the Stone Age, like these types of things like that don't necessarily feel like enders, but they work as enders. Yeah. So Release, because I liked it for what it is, and now that I'm kind of changing my mind about how I feel about it, which is more positive, I think number 5 is a good place for it to be on the list.
I placed Black. I definitely understand your opinions on the falsetto ending. I enjoy it, but it also just might be the exposure that I've had to it, where I don't even notice how long it is anymore or any of that. By the time the song is ended, I'm like, oh, that was it. It's done. And it is longer than what I'm what I'm used to listening to. But yeah, I definitely thought it had its place near the top of the list.
Yeah, and that's fair because, again, it's an excellent track. Like, very, very, like, I've said this about pretty much every track on the album. Very well written. Eddie Vedder doing his thing. But yeah, just, I don't know. It was so good. I try to ignore it, like, just try to let the song flow. But, like, if I'm in a car and I hear it, like, I'll start to feel uncomfortable after a while, just kind of like, this is still going, and like, how does the person next to me feel? Like, I get anxious. So I mean, like, I don't know, I guess it bothers me in that way, so that's why it's like number 9 on my list, and it's like, what, 5 on yours?
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so this is where we start really going like opposite direction here, because number 4 I have Oceans. So Oceans, to me, again, really good breath of fresh air. Kind of takes away some of the tension that was built up in the first half of the album, and just, I don't know, it's needed. I appreciate it. I appreciate songs like this, and you'll hear me making Nine Inch Nails references forever because I'm, again, huge fan of Nine Inch Nails. But the album, The Downward Spiral, like, the first 9 songs are just a nightmare. Like, it is like so intense and so crazy. But then song number 10, A Warm Place, is just like this beautiful, calm spot to be in. It literally is a warm place because it's that one place where you can just be away from the chaos and the terror of everything. So I love songs like this. That's my point. Like, I love songs that can just take you out of that tension and just give you a moment to breathe. Yeah. So I had to put Oceans somewhere on this list. It's not number 1 and obviously not top 3, but it's high enough up that I can still give it a lot of respect.
I can respect that opinion. I am throwing Even Flow at number 4. I have to say that regardless of how much I've heard the song and, you know, sort of how much I sort of talk about how just fatigued I am from hearing it, I absolutely love that the riff is constant through the whole song, whether it's the guitar or the bass taking over as both guitars are soloing. There's such a constant to it that you don't lose what the point is. And I like that.
And actually, that's one point I don't think I mentioned when we were talking about Even Flow, but like, I mentioned that the riffs and licks are really great, but like, I love the verse, the guitar and the verses, because like, they're harmonized guitars playing the exact same line. So like, I don't know, it makes it like, because you hear the intro to the song, it's just that heavy riff, and also I love sliding riffs too, like they sound fantastic. Yeah. But then once it gets to the verse, it gets really quiet. Not really quiet, but it gets quieter. But like, they're harmonizing with each other rather than just playing the same thing, and it sounds really nice, so it adds a lot to it. So yeah, like Even Flow sounds really good in that way.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we're going down to number 3 again, opposite ends of the spectrum. Yeah, these are the important tracks that we're going to have to recommend, I guess. But even though we apparently
going to be so
very
opposite.
Much disagree. I'm looking at the lists here. I don't think there's a single song that we're going to match in the top 3 at all. We're off of every. Like, I'm writing down, like, my answers are on my screen. Your answers I'm writing down in this little notepad next to me, and so far nothing matches. Yep. So number 3, I have Deep. Again, because I love that it's that last little burst of like just this heavy energy. Vedder just with this ungodly performance, and just, I don't know, I as I said, the track woke me back up. Not that the album was putting me to sleep, but like, it reinvigorated me. Like, you know, I was ready to go again. And so like, I love that feeling that an album could do that. I love how much power is behind it. So Deep had to be in my top 3 just for that reason alone.
Well, if anybody is keeping track, you definitely see that my top 3 are all the fast, aggressive ones. So, I mean, I don't know what that says about me, but my number 3 is Why Go. I liked how sort of to the point it was. It felt very, I don't know, it felt very sporadic and very sort of, I don't know, confusing, like you had mentioned with the chorus and there being the second version of the chorus. And
I did like that, yes.
Yeah, I really liked the change and just sort of how fast and sort of, I don't know, it makes me feel good. And that's all that matters sometimes.
And see, that's how I felt about Deep. That's why it's in my top 3. Like it made me feel like awake again and just wanted to get at it. So I completely understand that feeling. So number 2, I have Jeremy on my list. So yes, it is one of the songs where you can get fatigue because of how often it's played on the radio. I don't know why I just wrote that on this paper because this is for your list. So yeah, Jeremy is on my list. Again, I understand that fatigue from the radio, but this song is unforgettable. Like, not just from the lyrical content, because again, we already discussed that, very dark subject matter, but the idea is just like, there's nothing wrong with this song. I literally sat there on purpose listening to this track trying to nitpick it, and I was like, I don't know what I dislike about it. Like, I'm literally trying. I'm not just trying to kiss their ass, but like, I think I even read too that like Jeremy, like when they were writing it, they knew it was a hit. Like they knew it was going to be the thing. And so like when the band is that confident, then they've released a song that legitimately is a big thing. You can't go wrong. I mean, like, it just, Jeremy is a fantastic track. Like, it really is. Although obviously I guess my number one's kind of spoiled now, but the idea is this song just can't go wrong. Just if it stopped playing on the radio and like I could only hear it like once or twice a month, I'd be fine with that, and it would be the perfect song. It would be my new number 1.
Yeah.
But then my number 1 is the song that I only hear once or twice a month, so that's why it is where it is. What's your number 2?
My number 2. Now it was fairly difficult to decide which one I liked the most out of the remaining 2, but I decided to throw Porch into number 2.
Oh, my number 11.
It was really difficult for me not to put it number 1, but it's something about just how fast and aggressive and just kind of in your face it was, because personal preference, that's normally what I will gravitate to.
Yeah.
I always have the complaint that I wish the song was longer, but as I had mentioned previously, if it was longer, it may have sort of meandered somewhere that was sort of beyond the point that they were trying to get to. So I know that the length is there for a reason and on purpose, but I can't help but want seconds when I hear it the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, I guess. Maybe I'm also in that position where I have to re-listen to some tracks and to really appreciate them. Because again, like, I just listened to this like a handful of hours ago for the first time in forever. So, I mean, like, maybe I just need a fresh perspective and a couple of takes on it. But my number 1 is the one I haven't said yet, Alive. Yes, I know it's a radio single, but the idea is this song never gets old to me. Like, I know I said that about Jeremy too, but I mean, like, granted, it's so weird that I would choose this one to be number 1 because I actually nitpicked this one and I couldn't find anything to nitpick about Jeremy. But I don't know, Alive makes me feel so much better, or makes me feel alive. There you go, there's your pun. No, but just everything about it takes you on an emotional roller coaster. It has its like nice calm moments, kind of like Black, and then it kind of like picks up the pace. Yeah. But the thing is, like, it doesn't get too dark. I mean, it's, again, not breaking down lyrics, it doesn't get too dark tonally or like musically, and just it kind of keeps you like feeling a little uplifted, and just a constant progression where towards the end of the song, when it's just doing its like outro jam thing, it's just super energy right then and there.
Yeah.
And I believe this is the song that has that really cool bass outro with just that like little bass lick and everything on the fretless. It sounds really cool. But yeah, I don't know. I could go on a long time about this, but I'm trying to keep it short. Just Alive does so much more for me than Jeremy does, so that's why it's at the top of my list.
If it's not a surprise by now, I have thrown once the title track into my title track of my rankings.
I love how my bottom 2 are your top 2. We're too different.
Well, this will make for a very interesting analysis going forward, for sure. Mm-hmm. I really like the gritty vocals. I like the imagery that I get with the intro sounds before the song even kicks in. It feels dirty and gritty and sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say it sounds wrong, but it doesn't sound, like Skip Through the Park, la la la. It's very like,
there's a lot of tension in it.
Yeah, oh, very much so. And the muttering in the bridge, it feels like you're in your own head, but not in a pleasant way. And I really enjoy that sort of juxtaposition to what I normally feel day to day. It pulls me out of that and it gives me something new, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, there's like this in the bridges, as you mentioned, like there's that like manic kind of just constant flowing mindset, like Backstreet Lover on the side of the road, I got a 16 gauge buried under my coat, like just like all these like random thoughts popping up type thing. So like, yeah, I can see where that comes from, and it is interesting. That's actually probably my favorite part of the song, because like the verse is like very like I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but yeah, it's not staccato, because staccato is a very different thing. But the idea is like it's like chunky with the lyrics, where it's like it's broken up a lot and it's like more digestible. But then just like this rapid fire mindset shoots in the bridge. Yeah, so it's probably like my favorite part of it. So I could see that being there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
I like
it's number 10 on my list.
It gives me.
No, but
I love how opposite this is. It's pleasing in the weirdest way.
I'm so curious to know what you're going to think of the next album, because I don't even know if you've heard anything like it. And by the way, speaking of the next album, all of you out there, I don't know how popular this album is. Probably not a lot, but it's going to freak a lot of people out if they go ahead and listen to it. It might freak you out too. So I'm curious to know what your response is going to be.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to it, and I haven't listened to it yet. So just with that sort of disclaimer, I'm really anticipatory to get it started.
It's not like, okay, you know what, I'll leave that until we're done talking, because I don't want to give too many hints to the audience. You'll have to tune in next week, because that actually leads us to the final portion of this podcast. The title itself, we're going to rate the record. So this is the part where Savannah and I have actually talked off camera, because we didn't talk about our song ratings, because that was completely new to us.
Yep.
But we had to agree where this was going to go on the tier list. So if you just give me a second to transition, we're going to look at that screen right now. All right, so you should see a grid on the screen now. We would use a tier maker list, but they are very awkward about what we can and can't put in there, and we don't want to put every single album in there right now. So I have to use Photoshop. So we've talked about the songs, we've given them our rankings, and we had to discuss where we thought this album belonged. Yes. So personally, myself, I rated every song out of 10, so that would kind of give me a score system to go by of where I would put it.
Yes.
So did you do the same thing too?
I did, and I came up with my single-digit number.
Excellent. Wait, single digit?
Well,
percentage?
It's not. I guess it's percentage.
It's confirmed. Savannah's putting this in F class. See me after class.
I'm fired, aren't I?
F for fired. But yeah, we both came to our conclusions and our percentages, and we've decided that Pearl Jam's 10, this one that you should see floating around the screen right now, is an A-tier album.
Oh, of course it is.
It's not quite S material, but goddamn is it good.
And for a debut album, like, I would say that this is just, chef's kiss for a debut album.
Yeah.
The amount of singles, the amount of just marketable material that they have is just fantastic, and I love it.
I agree, because like a lot of debut albums for bands is not that they're terrible, but like some bands have to wait to like the sophomore album or beyond that for like their groundbreaking album. Yeah. But like 10 really set the standard, especially in the grunge scene. So I think it's well deserved to be high up on the list.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't feel too highly of like their more recent stuff over the last decade or two, but I mean, at the same time, like this was like the era, this was it. And by the way, if anyone's curious about like percentages or anything like that, like you see the numbers listed below the letters, and that's all within like a 10% thing. So like 100% to 90%, 70% to 80% type thing.
Yeah.
So my average came to like 77%, and I think yours came to what, 71?
71. Please don't at me. I love all of you.
And so because our averages came to the 7 range, that's why it's currently sitting in the A tier.
As it should.
I get it. There's a lot of people who absolutely adore this album, and there's very few people out there who despise this album. But maybe or maybe not that your choices have aligned with ours. Maybe yours is also in the A tier. But we would love to hear where yours fell and your song rankings too. Like, again, we want to encourage discussion about this. So go ahead and let us know. We have our social medias, which if I remember correctly, I have a couple of shows, so I can't remember the social medias properly. Is it Rate the Record podcast on Facebook and Instagram, I believe?
So we are on Facebook at Rate the Record and Instagram at Rate the Record Podcast.
That's right. We confused all of you.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at Rate the Record, and just please keep the conversation civil. If you disagree or agree, that's totally cool, but just be nice about it, please.
I agree. We want to be civil about things. Like, I get it. Some people are going to be passionate. Some people, again, truly love this album, maybe really hate that we put certain songs in certain places. We can take it, but the idea is still, let's play cool. It's just our own personal opinions. We're not professionals, so just our own opinions. That's all it is.
Yeah, and we're all Pearl Jam fans, and that's really all that matters, right?
And also, I don't know if you mentioned, but you can email us also your questions, comments, concerns, whatever, at ratetherecord@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay,
we will answer personally. Yeah.
We will be there, and if you want us to so badly, we'll even sign which one of us actually answered the email. I only want to talk to Savannah.
Sorry, I'm busy. Here's Kris.
Kris is a dumpster fire. I want to talk to you. Show feet. Please don't be that kind of person either. Please don't be that person either. I know there's a user on social media, like Instagram stuff, that it's called Show Feet Guy, I think his name is.
Oh, Lord.
Now that I'm calling him out, he's probably someone's gonna summon him. Anyways, we have reached the end of this episode. It's actually a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. We were discussing the album. We're having a lot of fun. And also, we got a lot of kinks to work out, obviously, because this is the very first episode, the inaugural episode of this podcast.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. You stuck around this long, so you deserve all the praise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure you tune in next Monday, because it's going to be the same time every single Monday. You can catch it here on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure the audio portions will be uploaded different places, and as they are, not upgraded, but as they're added, we will go ahead and put those in too. We'll let you know where. At the point of recording this, we're not exactly certain where yet, except maybe Anchor FM and Podbean. But other than that, YouTube's probably the main source. But we will let you know of more audio stuff, hopefully on Spotify one day. That's a goal.
And you will get links to everywhere we are, anywhere you find us. So don't worry about that.
Exactly. Down in the description, there's actually going to be a link tree file, so you can just find everything you need to right there rather than having to type it in yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, and so until next week, we hope that you stay safe, have fun. Let's, again, keep it clean, keep it cool. Pearl Jam's 10, awesome A-ranking album, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.